Hey, everybody. This is Aaron Hafel. This is the Show Buddies podcast. And today we've got Cody from Chicago Farmer sitting with me. And we're going to talk a little bit about music. And he's playing a show tonight. I'm pretty stoked for it. So, Cody, how you doing?
I'm doing great, man. It's good to be back in town. It's been a while.
It has. What was growing up in Delavan, Illinois like?
Oh, man. At the time, it was kind of... Well, when I was really young, it was great. It was a small town, about 1,700 people. And I was kind of a country kid. So I grew up in the country, could just roam around, do whatever I want. And then, you know, when you get to high school, it kind of becomes that age where you're like, there's nothing to do. And I'm like, I needed something. So In high school study hall, I started writing. And then one summer, I got a guitar from detasseling corn and baling hay.
Oh, wow.
And I started putting that writing into poetry and kind of started putting it into motion. And that was my thing, to find something to do.
What year is that? What were we talking
legal. About? So I graduated high school in 1996. So I guess probably like my junior year was when I really started like really getting interested into writing. And just kind of being in study hall, going on adventures in my head. And then when I would get back from these little daydream adventures in study hall, I started writing them down. And I was like, this is fun. And so that kind of where it all kind of came out of.
So you kind of lived through the alternative boom a little bit.
I did, yeah.
Did you have MTV? Because some folks I know, they had like the Farmer 4. They only had 4 channels.
No,
it was
I had the 4 channels because I was a country kid. Mm-hmm. So when I went to town and hung out with my friend's house who had MTV, that was a mind-blowing experience.
Yeah, for sure.
They had like 30 channels. And I was like, whoa. And because 3 of the channels were the same, and then there was PBS, so those are my 4, So
PBS has some good shit, though.
They do. I grew up on all that good stuff. 321 Contact, and the whole shebang.
You had to have Reading Rainbow and things like that. Rainbow, I think to like
Sesame
get the motor going, at least as far as like creativity.
Yeah.
And just being interested in things. It's PBS is huge.
Yeah, my parents loved music, and they didn't really play music though. But so I got turned on to Zeppelin, Beatles, and CCR from the family. But really, those first adventures of going to town to hang out with my friends and ride skateboards. It was ride skateboards and watch MTV. That was it.
And what were the first things that you remember, like bands that were?
Definitely Nirvana.
Sure.
I mean, Metallica came before that, and I liked them a lot. And I have 2 cousins who are both heavy metal drummers who are amazing.
Oh, wow.
One still does it even. And but really, that kind of Nirvana era really hit me hard. Fell in love with that. And Blind Melon.
Yeah.
Being from right around the corner.
Right, yeah. They're Indianapolis?
Indiana.
Okay.
Yeah. And so that grunge era was huge for me, and it was really like emotional music too. Like there were a lot of grit and rawness to it that I really liked. And you like I said, just like mainstream TV, we had mainstream radio, so it was kind of like force fed.
Well, it's wild that
and then it changed into this thing.
It's wild that things like Nirvana were even on mainstream radio. I don't know if that would happen now. Maybe it would, but it was a pretty unique time. I definitely feel that. What led you to lean more towards acoustic performance?
Yeah, I was actually at my buddy's house upstairs. We were kind of like banging our heads to like Nirvana and some more like punk rock bands like Minor Threat and everything.
Sure. And
they didn't have a bathroom up there, to go to the bathroom. You had to go downstairs. And their dad, who was a much older dad than most of the dads, was singing Hank Williams. He had an old acoustic guitar, and he loved Hank Williams. And he was like the local custodian at the armory in town, and he was also very Christian man. And he was singing Hank Williams like Hank Williams, like had his own voice.
Sure.
But you could just hear it in his voice.
But singing it well.
Yeah, just hearing that strumming of that acoustic guitar, kind of hearing the tone of it. and his kind of like voice that was very inspired by Hank Williams. He was probably like 60s at this time. And I was just like, whoa. I was like, I'm liking what I'm hearing upstairs, but it's kind of like crazy.
Yeah.
A lot of craziness going on. I'm digging it though. And then I went downstairs and I heard him play and I was like, oh, I'm really digging this too. I kind of like fell in love with both sides of that. And so. Did
you have a pop country phase?
No, there were always those songs. Like I was just talking to a buddy the other day. I think Joe Diffie wrote that song, John Deere Green.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, and like, I didn't really, a lot of those songs were catchy and they had some melodies. And the one good thing about some of those songs is that they did have good stories. Mm-hmm. I mean, you kind of felt like there were probably teams of people maybe getting together and saying, let's write a really good song that's going to catch people's attention. But some of them were really good. There were some country songs from that era that were cheesy, but there were actually some pretty good stories and content in there too happening. So
yeah, I just wondered as a country kid, like if you were kind of like swept in that early 90s kind of like you know, Billy Ray Cyrus, Garth Brooks kind of thing, or and like have that being maybe your initial touchstone to country music, and then all these years later, you hear this guy playing Hank Williams. He's like, well, that's a different kind of country.
Yeah,
what is
totally,
that?
Totally. But that song, like the Garth Brooks song, like I could have missed the pain, but I would have had
the dance
or whatever. I mean, that's if you strip away all that production,
that's a great song.
It's just a great song. And if somebody, one of those old timey country singers, it probably wouldn't have been a hit, but it would have been beautiful still.
Yeah, and I mean, in the right moment, that song that'll hit you.
Yeah,
it's one of those songs.
They do hit you.
You're absolutely right. I mean, there were these songs in that era that would have been good songs, and they got either overshadowed by the more flashy thing or whatever. So it's interesting, remembering that. Then you come downstairs to this guy who's just got the bare bones.
Yeah.
The guitar and the voice.
Yeah, and I really like both. And then I think maybe it was after that, or maybe I guess it was 94. I guess was that when the Nirvana Unplugged? Does that sound right?
Oh yeah, 93, 94.
Right? Yeah, so that was kind of around this time. Around the same time, and so to hear them then go and kind of do that similar thing, it was kind of like this all kind of happened in the same little era for me.
Yeah, I mean the Nirvana one was huge.
Hearing that.
I think that changed a lot of people's idea of what you can do with interposing like loud, heavy music with some acoustic vibe to it. Yeah,
and it's so interesting because like the Bob Dylan way was the complete opposite. He was like acoustic guitar. Voice and harmonic, and then he went to a band.
I gotta get loud,
and then like Nirvana was loud rock band, and then they stripped it down, kind of did the opposite way. But it's cool, and I'm very fortunate because I do travel with the band. I play with the band, and we're more rock.
Field Notes, right?
Yeah, Chicago Farm and the Field Notes, and then I do my solo show. It's kind of I'm still living in both of those worlds that I fell in love with. So
that's cool that you're able to do that, though.
That's very fortunate.
What was like the first band or that you drove out of Delavan to go see?
Man,
that was a big deal to you. Like what?
The first big deal show was Stone Temple Pilots at the Illinois State Fair.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my first one. Maybe
how were they?
16, 17, incredible. They were with the Meat Puppets and Jawbox.
Wow.
So my first real show, like I went to like see bands with my aunt and uncle and stuff like that, but this is my first band that like all my friends got in a car. First of all, we all got in a car a week before and drove to the actual box office and got tickets.
Yeah.
And then
can't do that online.
And then we drove home, and then a week later, we actually drove to the show to attend the show.
That's beautiful.
Because we were afraid that it was going to sell out or whatever.
Yep.
And first outdoor show. First, like big stage show. First, somewhat of a mosh pit. Some type of pilot. There's a little bit of a mosh pit.
Oh, I could see that.
Not like the real mosh pits that that the heavier guys do, but there was a mosh pit, so that's first time for that. First time just with all these concert experiences.
Yeah.
And just the energy and the sound and everything.
It's a good bill.
Yeah, and the State Fair has, you know, a pretty good production. It's like a big deal, you know. I think.
Was that in Springfield? Or
Springfield, Illinois.
Right on.
Yeah,
okay.
so that was the big one.
Cool. That's a good, man.
Yeah.
Just honestly, I'm a fan. I mean, Meat Puppets and Jawbox are like, that's stuff. I love that shit. So that's a good bill. Well,
my buddy Larry got pushed up against a fence. He really wanted to be in the mosh, but he got pushed up against this fence. And when he got pulled away, his pants stuck to the fence.
Oh, nice.
Part of him. So he was like just in shreds for the show. So he walked out of there looking like he just
went into the mosh pit. You did it, man.
Yeah, that was a good time.
How soon after the Stone Temple Pilots experience do you start kind of getting yourself together? Like, do you do cover bands? You play like around in town a little bit, or?
We did start a band. Not long after that, but really right after that, I started writing more, and I think my songs kind of started getting they would just kind of meander for a while. But listening to those bands, I mean, they actually had like choruses and
structure.
Yeah, they had like the whole structure thing, and I started like, and you know, there was kind of like a little poppy, catchy thing in some of those songs too that like just really like had a hook and stuff. And I started like just trying to work on melodies a lot and writing, you know. And at that time, like now, I feel like I'm kind of like more of a songwriter because I'm writing about my life experiences. But then at that time, it was all just made up. I was just all imagination. Now there's still
some life.
There's still
some life.
I need some experience. I need to get my heart broken and be broke.
Why do we need that? Damn it.
But yeah, we started a band called the Penal Codes.
Oh wow.
In high school, and we played the talent show and got last place to like a girl who sang Summer of the Rainbow.
Sure.
And these guys that shot mini marshmallows out of their noses across the stage. They were two hillbilly farmers. They would shoot mini marshmallows. One guy was on one side of the stage, and he would shoot the mini marshmallows out of his nostril across the stage, and the other guy would catch them in his mouth.
Were they known for doing this?
No, they were just farmers that had a little time off.
Wow.
Yeah. And they beat us. We got third place to them.
Well, it is an important skill. I mean, it's honestly,
I mean, my buddies were like, that's actually way cooler than the girls singing Summer of the Rainbow. So.
How soon do you have to move from Delavan to Chicago to create the Chicago Farmer?
Yeah. I mean, once I really started, like, I had something that I could put together that I could call a show. I played both bars. There's 2 bars in the whole town. Played the there's one little cafe. It's not there anymore. And then I played a bunch of people's like yards and garages. Mm-hmm. And, so after I played all the venues in town really quickly, it was time to kind of take it elsewhere. And I actually went to Bloomington, Illinois first before I went to Chicago. And it was a little bit more of a scene there.
Sure.
And that's when I saw my buddy who we were talking about earlier, Edward David Anderson, was in a band called Backyard Tire Fire. But before that, he was in a band called Brother Jed.
Oh.
And they played this garage at the Lacrosse House. And it was just a sweaty garage. Perfect. And they just played rock and roll. But he had great songs, you know, songs that kind of reminded me of some
Was it the same guys?
Yeah. A couple of the same guys, a couple different guys.
Okay.
Different drummer.
Was Scott still there? Was he with him?
Scott hadn't joined him yet. Scott was down there, though. He would come and jam all the time, but He wasn't like officially a member of Brother Jed. They were like a 3-piece. And it was just great rock and roll, great fun, great songs. And that's kind of when I really decided to kind of like, let's just do this, you know, because I didn't know what else I was going to do. It was either work on the family farm or go to Peoria.
Is that how you grew up? It was the family farm.
Yeah. So both of my sets of grandparents were farmers.
Okay.
They had farms. My uncles were farmers. My dad was kind of the guy who went a different path. My dad was really into music, and he had a head shop. It was like his first business.
Oh, wow.
And sold like paraphernalia and water beds and like crazy stuff, like in the early to mid 70s. And that went under, and then he started selling cowboy boots and Western wear. And then he went on to like work for the Yellow Pages and sell advertising.
Interesting.
But my parents were always super supportive of that. And I just said, my dad was always kind of his own boss too, which has its struggles, which I'm finding out quite a bit.
Sure does.
But I kind of like the idea of not being told where to be and what to wear and how to act and where to go. I kind of like being on my own terms.
Absolutely.
And that has its advantages and disadvantages, but he kind of inspired me to just kind of go for it.
That's cool.
And so I did.
And like grandma and grandpa on either side, like they were generally cool, like they didn't bust balls or anything like that?
No, they were super, super supportive. Both sides of my grandparents love music, especially my grandpa on my mom's side. But I would work at the farm on both sides too. I would bale hay and walk beans and pull weeds and drove the tractor a little bit and would take corn up to the elevator.
You're saying detasseling, that's right.
So I did a lot of farm work. And, I think that's great work too, but I just kind of had this creative jolt come upon me, and I was like, I gotta do something. Gotta go see what's out there.
So Brother Jed blows your mind.
Yeah.
And you're in Bloomington.
Yeah, quit school. Started playing around the coffee house and play at parties, worked odd jobs. And then my buddies were already in a band in town, and I kind of would sing with them and sit in with them, and we would do a couple of my songs from time to time. And in like 2002, they decided they were going to move to Chicago, and I was like, it's kind of like this is, my chance to really explore, because I'd already played all the venues in Bloomington normal.
When you were doing that, was it kind of getting any traction, or were you just hammering away at it?
It was starting to build. Like I was still just my name. I wasn't in Chicago Farm yet. I was just Cody Dekoff.
Okay.
It would just be like Cody would play. It wasn't like marketing. There was just like posters and just like telling your friends.
But if you're filling up the rooms in Bloomington, it's like, well, maybe I gotta.
I kind of like. Around that time, I kind of started becoming like the go-to like opening act in like Central Illinois and in Illinois in general, because I was easy. I worked for cheap. I was one guy, easy setup.
Bless you. I'm just saying.
Yeah, so and I would bring 30 or 40 more people to the show that would already be there. So I got the call on that a lot, which was a great way to kind of grow and
meet people. Yeah, absolutely.
But then, after a while, you're like, that headliner looks like he's having more fun than me. Let's try to do that.
At least.
So
we're green.
Yeah.
So you get to Chicago.
Yeah, it was a loft in Wicker Park, and it was a 4-bedroom loft when we moved in. But my guys were really handy, like in construction, so we went to Home Depot and we bought a bunch of stuff, and we turned this 4-bedroom loft into a 7-bedroom loft.
Oh my gosh.
We put up walls, and the landlord was just kind of aloof and was just like, yeah, whatever. And I think he kind of liked, well, when they move out, I'll be able to advertise a 7-bedroom apartment.
It's just up my whole thing.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It was like $2,100 a month, like in 2003, but we were splitting it 7 ways. So it was like $300 a month. So I was like living in Chicago and surviving. I would go to this coffee house across the street, and I would write songs all day.
Yeah.
And then at night, I would jam with my roommates. We would go to shows. We would hang out. We'd play poker. We'd party way too much. But we were in our early 20s, mid-20s. That's what we would do.
What were the clubs around that time? Where were you going to see shows?
I was going to the Double Door, Subterranean, and my favorite place was called the Hideout.
Yeah.
The Hideout was great.
Hideout's so good.
And as much as I loved being with my roommates, the city just scared the hell out of a kid from 1,700 people.
Yeah.
A town of 1,700 people. So I was just like, this is crazy. I don't even know what I'm doing here. And my buddy picked me up one night and took me to the Hideout. And I saw like the neon lights in the window. And I walked in, and there was this band called Devil in a Woodpile.
Yeah.
I'm still pals with.
Rick.
Rick and Joel and those guys are still one of my favorite bands of all time. But I started going seeing them every Tuesday.
Nice.
And they would play in the corner, unplugged. And just people would just sit and drink beer and listen, They would cheer. And maybe stomp along or, clap and cheer and maybe sing on a few, but everybody just sat and drank beer and listened. And then when they would take a break, everybody would be talking, you do your things, but I was just like, this is it. This is where I need to be.
It's a great band.
And that was, it's a great band. Just a great hang, great spot. I ended up getting to record, having those guys on a couple recordings of mine and stuff, and it was an honor. Like, to me, they're still my favorite band, and they're definitely the band that like kind of helped me stick it out in Chicago, because it's tough, man.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody's trying to play. Everybody's trying, my gosh. So at some point, you kind of get, and I could be off here, but like kind of get hooked up with the jam scene a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Like there's always singer-songwriters in Chicago and like the folk scene, and it seemed to like the obvious thing to do would just be jump right into that. But all my roommates were into like jam music and like experimental music and hallucinogenic music, and so they would go to these festivals and I would go with them and we would just party, and I would have so much fun. And they call it raging. They would just rage for like 3 days, like lose their minds and rage for like 3 days.
Lose yourself, man.
Yeah. And then one day this one guy was like, hey, maybe while we're raging, maybe like on Sunday at like noon, we'll have Cody just like play his songs and tell some stories, and we'll all just smoke a joint and drink a beer. What do you think about that? And then when he's done, we'll go back to raging. And it worked. And it was like, really, like, if I would have jumped into the songwriter scene, I would have just been
missed that whole thing.
Just like a small fish in a big pond.
Now, what festival was that?
What's that?
What was
Well, I played Summer Camp.
Okay.
Music Festival in Chillicothe. I played that for like 18 years, I think.
Is that what you're talking about? Like where you guys were at?
There were a lot of smaller festivals too, but that was the big one that people have actually heard of.
Okay.
That I was doing, and really like Summer Camp too. It's like, it was kind of like as common as a singer-songwriter guy with a guitar is for a festival like that. It's very uncommon because there's like these jam bands, there's bluegrass, there's funkadelic.
Yep.
So I was like a guy with a guitar singing songs and telling stories, and I was like unique. There wasn't like anybody else doing that. There was like Keller Williams. I don't know if you've heard of Keller Williams. He's kind of like a one-man jam thing,
layers.
But he does like loops and layers. And occasionally there would be like Ani DeFranco or somebody like that would be on the bill. But for the most part, I was like the only folk singer at Summer Camp for like a long, long time. And there were a couple other one-man bands, but I was really like the only folk singer.
That one guy was probably...
Yeah, he's been there, I think. He's incredible. But so that was kind of like my niche. I kind of like... as common as it is in other places, I was unique in that situation, which was odd.
But it worked.
Yeah, because
you were being one of the few people doing it. It's like you were noticed probably a little heavier.
Yeah. And so other people saw that and they're like, well, let's have him at our festival too at noon on Sunday.
Right.
Some people are just
they're still bless you for doing the noon at fucking Sunday at a festival. Jesus.
Like half the people are still crawling out of their tents.
Yeah, just trying to figure out where their life is.
It kind of became like breakfast at noon with Chicago Farmer and at all these festivals, and that kind of like stuck and it became a thing. So it was cool.
Now, do you still have a big love for festivals, or do you?
I do. Yeah, my favorite weekend of the year is called Shoe Fest. It's in Manteno, Illinois, not far from Kankakee. That's my favorite weekend of the year. I love that festival. And then there's so many other great small ones around the Midwest, Whispering Beard Folk Festivals, just outside of Cincinnati. There's a few good ones that I'm kind of a regular at. There's several up at the Driftless Music Gardens in Yuba, Wisconsin.
Oh, yeah, the People's Brothers Band folks.
I love those folks. They're great. And there aren't as many as there used to be.
Right.
They're kind of gone to the wayside, which I get. It's hard. It's hard to keep something like that afloat.
Well, honestly, do you still rage?
Do I?
Yeah.
I'm with my band. We rock out. I don't rage as much as I used to.
Because I feel like that might be another thing. Is like some of us got to stop raging after a while.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. But it's fun. Sometimes you go to a straight up bluegrass festival, and after a day or two, it's kind of it all kind of runs together. So it's nice. I like really diverse music, so I like to go to like a very diverse festival.
Yeah,
Like
Bob,
something that just calls itself one thing doesn't really attract me that much if it just focuses on one kind of music mostly. Yeah.
Bob Log was in here and we were talking about like the like you were just saying with the bluegrass a trad bluegrass festival, like a traditional blues. You know, you get someone like yourself or Bob Log on it. Doesn't quite fly all the time because it's just it's there are rules, and if you want to not have any, people are going to be upset. You know? And that's I'm sure. Like, have you done the John Hartford one?
Yeah, I did that for many years.
Yeah,
I was grateful and honored to be one of the returning acts to that festival many times.
Is that a pretty strict one, or is?
No, well, I mean, it's definitely a tribute to John Hartford, and it's definitely heavy on bluegrass, but there's, you know, it's expanded a lot into different things, which is kind of what John Hartford was about too.
Yeah.
Kind of had like a bluegrass revival and kind of like a progressive bluegrass and jam grass and all this kind of different things. That was a special one, and that's still one of my favorite parts of the country to go to. I love that area.
For sure.
Brown County. And that festival was kind of like Shoe Fest. Those were my top two for a long time.
And Shoe Fest is the old shoe folks.
Yeah, they're great.
And they just bring in like a bunch of people. I mean, it's a lot of regional stuff though, right? Like,
it is, yeah.
Which is kind of cool. I like that. I like that they do that.
Molly Tuttle was the headliner this year, which is incredible because she's just blown up. And every year they have a pretty substantial headliner, and then a lot of it is Midwest bands that are, you know, kind of like beyond the up-and-comers, you know, the ones that are really, you know, crushing it and dedicated, and a few repeats, but they mix it up really well. Have a little something for everybody, which is
been going on for a few years too, right?
Yeah. I can't remember what year we're on now, but definitely.
Do you help with the setup or anything like that, or?
I don't. I'm very fortunate because at the point now, I'm kind of like become a staple, and I get to do a band set and a solo set, which is really cool. And it's kind of like I've been there since the beginning, so it's cool that they let me do that, kind of both sides, let me showcase both sides of myself, which is I'm grateful for.
How many records do you have out?
I guess I've recorded probably like 5 or 6 full lengths, and I'm completely out of records right now, but we're working on a new one. I'm the lamest musician. I'm traveling.
You don't got any merch?
I'm a musician and travels around with no music, but it's online or whatever.
Yeah,
you know, we got the hats and the koozies and the posters and whatnot, and we're gonna have vinyl and CDs here.
Now, those first couple, are those with the buddies that you were living with in Chicago, or?
No, they were. Well, the one back. Some of them were solo. Some of them were just like a real simple production with Devil in a Woodpile.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And then I did a 4-song EP with a band from Chicago called Henhouse Prowlers.
Oh.
And then I did a couple records just with random friends in Chicago. So this is really like the one I'm working on right now, recording up in Minnesota, is the first one where the Field Notes and I are really doing like a full album.
This is like the first.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Because I played solo for so long, it was time to mix things up, and I always loved playing with Old Shoe, and I would play with these other bands like Henhouse Prowlers, and we'd tour, but it was kind of like still like my thing and their thing. So this is kind of like our band, Chicago Farm the Field Notes. It's kind of like this thing that's ours.
Yeah.
And it's dedicated to. If I'm on stage with people, it's pretty much dedicated to this thing I'm working on now.
Did you say you're recording in Minnesota, or where at?
The Pachyderm Studios.
You're doing it at Pachyderm?
Yeah.
Wow.
Which all comes full circle.
To the Nirvana thing.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I mean, so you've been there already?
Yeah. I was just there this week.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, we did a few days back in August, and then we just went to do a little bit more this week, and it's getting close.
I've only seen pictures and like little bits of video. I mean, is it beautiful?
Incredible. It's incredible.
Yeah,
it's incredible. This beautiful house with 70s carpet.
Yep.
And it's just got vibes for miles. And then just like 100 yards away is the studio. So you're in the studio all day, and then you just walk 100 feet and you're in this like house built in the 70s that's just got like all these vibes. And
right on. And this Cannon Falls, right?
Yeah, which is a cute little town too, an area. And there's a creek that runs through behind the studio, and it's very inspirational and great vibes.
And it's like, I mean, the Nirvana record was recorded there, but I mean, there's been a ton of stuff. I mean, it's like, it's a popular recording studio.
A lot of folks have played there.
Where else would you want to record? Have you thought about that?
Man, I've always had trouble recording. It's just, I've gotten better at it, but it's still just like a mind game.
Do you do live records? Do you have a live record out yet?
So I do. Yeah, I have a live record of just myself. It's like 2 CDs of me rambling and playing, and it turned out really well. I really like it. But in the studio, we try to like capture a performance, so we do some things live. And then I'm like, I could have sang that better. I could have sang that better. So it's like, I don't know. It's like, I haven't really figured out how to approach it yet. Because, it's kind of like our art and our thing. And you want it to be as good as you want it to be. But at the same time, you can't force it. You just got to let things happen. And it keeps me up at night, man. It really does. It's tough. Making records is tough for me.
Yeah.
It's really tough. Like, I know that my voice can be really strong and really good, but I'm also very self-conscious about it. It's kind of a untrained voice, if you will.
Sure. Oh yeah. I'm very familiar.
Saying it nicely, it's like it's very untrained. It does what it does. It doesn't always cooperate. And then you get the stress of going into a studio and throwing a big bunch of money.
Yeah.
And then like, well, maybe my voice isn't going to work today, and I'm just going to spend a few $1,000s on the studio this week, and it's like not even going to be usable. And it's just, it's kind of stressful. There's more stress things in life that should stress you out, and then I shouldn't let it get to me.
Getting to do this thing is like it.
Yeah,
but it is. It's from your heart. So you're like, you want it to be as right as it can be.
We play a show, and it's gonna be great. We're gonna play a great show, and it might not be the greatest show. But we're going to mess up. We're going to make flubs. We're going to hit wrong notes. My voice is going to crack.
Yep.
But it's a live show, and people walk away still having a good time and a great experience and saying, those guys are great. But that's not there forever. We're not Grateful Dead. We don't record all our shows.
Every single thing, yeah.
And so in the studio, it's like, this is what you're getting, and this is the way we're going to sound all the time. So you want it to be killer,
What's the name of the new record?
I don't know yet. That's a good question.
Cool.
Yeah,
right
I don't know yet.
And then in kind of just trying to wrap up a little bit, who are some artists that you would, if you had to describe Chicago Farmer, you're like, I want you to listen to Chicago Farmer, but I mean, if to get an idea, listen to these people.
Oh man, somewhere between John Prine and Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah,
it's kind of like what I like. I guess when people have written things about my records and my shows, I get the Arlo Guthrie comparisons quite a bit, and I get that. I was on Thanksgiving, I always listened to Alice's Restaurant, of course.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I do kind of sound like this guy. I did take something from this guy for sure.
You gonna do the motorcycle song tonight, or
the motorcycle song's great? I love it. I don't know that one. I know like some Steve Goodman songs, and definitely a lot of Prine. I should dig into a little more Arlo.
It's good.
I do City of New Orleans.
Oh well, that's beautiful.
Steve Goodman wrote, but Arlo kind of made it popular. That's always a fun one. But yeah, I love Arlo, and I think that is a good comparison.
Anything that you're listening to, any like that you've kind of found out or found recently that you've been digging on?
There's a band out of the Twin Cities called The Last Revel.
Oh yeah,
have you heard of The Last Revel? I did some shows with them this year and in the past. I love them. They're fantastic.
Yeah, they kind of like went away for a little bit.
They did.
And then
they took a little hiatus for a couple years, and actually I was touring. I was opening for them, and I remember played like 4 sold out shows in a row, and then they took a hiatus, and I was like, I hope that wasn't my fault.
I'm sure.
No, they needed a breather, and they took a hiatus, and they just came back stronger than ever, and they added another member on bass.
It was a trio, right?
It was a trio. Now it's a 4-piece. God, they sound better than ever. That was so good. I love that band. Some of our mutual friends, Miles Nielsen, the Rusted Hearts, they're fantastic. Like when I think
great songwriting.
When I think of Midwest, the Midwest bands that I adore.
Definitely
one of them.
Did you ever see Harmony Riley?
I didn't. No, I haven't.
Man, I remember seeing them on the Super Rock calendar for Gabe's Oasis in Iowa City. I would see them on the list, and years later, I somehow put it together. I was like, oh, Miles was in that band? What the fuck? Like, I never saw him either, but like, I would have loved to see the development from that to what he's doing now, and just like how that
definitely. I mean, his fans are so hardcore. Yeah, there's you'll go to their shows and there'll be people with like Harmony Riley T-shirts from like way back,
25 years ago.
Yeah,
I was
exactly.
Like, what?
Yeah, it's great.
Oh.
It's great.
What when you think of the name Chicago Farmer, like what are you trying to evoke? What is that like? When you came up with the name, what were you thinking?
Yeah, when I was moving from my hometown, like somebody joked, like kind of like, you'd be like the urban cowboy. And I was like, with John Travolta, and I was kind of like, I kind of like that different side of things. And somehow Chicago Farmer just popped in my head because that was where I was from and where I was going.
Yeah.
And, north of I-80 in Illinois and south of I-80 in Illinois are two completely different places.
Oh, yeah.
Like they really are. And so I thought that was cool. And I've called both of them home. I love both of them. They both seem like they're a part of me. And really the idea was to start a band and call it Chicago Farmer. But I just started falling in love with like Hank Williams, and when I got to Chicago, the Old Town School of Folk was a big deal.
Do you play there?
I took harmonica lessons there.
Wow,
yeah,
right on.
I've never had a performance there, except for my harmonica
recital.
Showcase recital. Yes, I call it a showcase.
Jay.
My wife calls it a recital too. I think it's hilarious. She came. Well, the reason I got the lessons is she bought me lessons because I was trying to learn on my own in our tiny little box of an apartment.
She was
and so her way of telling me that I sucked was not to tell me I sucked, but to get me harmonica lessons, a gift certificate. So that worked out great.
It's a loving way to do it.
It's the best way. That's the kind of woman she is. And so, I just started playing solo, but I was kind of like, plus my last name's Dekoff, which just can get misspelled and mispronounced a million times.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll be one of those weirdos that has a stage name. Why not?
Yeah.
And it just kind of stuck. And then it's kind of like I paid like to trademark it. And like after you pay money, it's like, well, might as well just keep it now. I paid for it.
Yep.
So
we're doing it.
Yeah. So now it's stuck and it's still weird, but it's me. It's me. I think it was me. It was kind of me before, but it's really me now. It really is.
I guess it's grown in.
It really is who I am.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's crazy like that.
Well, man, I really appreciate you talking to me.
Yeah, this was great.
And I'm looking forward to the show tonight, and I'm thinking it's going to be a fun night.
At the legendary Lift. Let's go.
Less relaxed.
Let's go.
But thank you very much.
Yes.
Cool. Catch you later, man.